Imagine walking outside into a winter so cold that exposed skin can freeze within minutes. The wind is coming straight from Siberia. It crosses thousands of miles of open land, carrying some of the coldest air on Earth directly into northern China. The temperature has dropped below -40 degrees Celsius. Your fingers go numb. Your face feels like it is being cut by invisible blades. Now imagine stepping through a wooden doorway into a house built more than 2,000 years ago. No electricity, no gas furnace, no modern insulation, no smart heating system. But inside, the air is still, the room is warm, and the temperature is comfortable enough for a family to sleep through the night. So how did ancient builders create a home that could survive one of the harshest winters on Earth, using nothing more than brick, mud, paper, sunlight, and airflow? The answer is not a lost technology. It is something much more interesting. They built a house that understood nature better than most modern buildings do. Because this house was never designed to fight the cold. It was designed to control it. Northern China is one of the most demanding places on Earth to build a home. At first glance, the land looks simple. Wide plains, open farmland, endless horizons. But that openness is exactly the problem. There is almost nothing standing between northern China and the frozen air of Siberia. Every winter, a giant mass of freezing air known as the Siberian high forms over Central Asia. Then it pushes southward like a slow-moving ocean of cold, across the exposed North China Plain and the Loess Plateau. Those winds have a direct path, no mountains, no forests, no natural barrier strong enough to stop them. For a poorly designed house, this was a disaster. A thin wall was not just uncomfortable, it was a countdown. Cold air would steal heat from the inside until the room became almost as cold as the outside world. The biggest enemy was not the snow, it was the wind. Because wind does something much more dangerous than simply lower temperature. It removes the thin layer. That is why a freezing day with strong wind can feel much colder than the thermometer suggests. Ancient builders understood this thousands of years before modern weather science explained it. And they asked one simple question: how do you stop a wind powerful enough to freeze human skin? Their answer began with the most obvious part of the house, the wall. But not just any wall, a wall designed like a shield. Traditional courtyard houses placed their thickest barrier on the north side, the direction where the worst winter winds arrived. This wall was massive, heavy, almost completely closed. Few or no windows faced the freezing northern sky. It did not try to fight the wind directly. It simply refused to let the wind enter. Think about a snowplow pushing through a storm. The blade does not defeat the snow by becoming stronger than every snowflake. It changes the direction of the force. That is exactly what this wall did. The wind hit the thick masonry surface, lost energy, and moved upward over the roof instead of cutting through the living space. But blocking the wind created only half of the solution. A wall cannot create warmth, and northern China had another problem. Fuel was limited. Trees were not everywhere. Wood became increasingly valuable as populations grew and forests disappeared. Families could not simply burn endless amounts of fuel like a modern heating system. They needed another strategy. They needed a house that could collect heat, store heat, and release heat slowly. This is where the genius of the courtyard design appears. The courtyard was not just an empty space in the middle of a home. It was a giant solar machine. Ancient builders understood something modern architects still use today. The winter sun and summer sun behave differently. In winter, the sun sits low in the sky, at around Beijing's latitude. The midday winter sun rises only about 26 degrees above the horizon. The sunlight arrives at a shallow angle, like a flashlight shining across a table instead of pointing straight down. So builders shaped the entire house around capturing that low winter sunlight. The main rooms faced south. The courtyard acted like a giant light collector. The walls were positioned carefully so sunlight could travel across the open space and reach the windows during the coldest months. That sunlight entered the home and warmed the floors, walls, and bricks. The house was slowly charging itself during the day. But here is the part that makes the design even more impressive. The same house that captured winter sunlight could also block the brutal summer heat. Because in summer, the sun rises much higher, The roof overhang created deep shadows over the windows. Winter sunlight came inside. Summer sunlight stayed outside. No motors, no sensors, no electronics, just geometry. The ancient Chinese courtyard house that survived -40 degrees Celsius winters, without modern technology. English TXT building was basically calculating the movement of the sun centuries before computers. But even after blocking the wind and capturing sunlight, one major problem remained: night. Because northern China's winter nights are long, the sun disappears, temperatures collapse, and all the stored warmth slowly begins escaping back into the freezing air. The house needed a second heating system, one that did not waste fuel, one that could keep people warm long after the fire disappeared. And the solution would become one of the most brilliant heating inventions in Chinese history: a simple raised platform, a hidden network of tunnels, and a system that transformed cooking smoke into overnight warmth. The Kang blocking the wind solved one problem. Capturing sunlight solved another. But northern China had one enemy that arrived every single night: darkness. When the sun disappeared behind the horizon, temperatures could collapse quickly. The warm bricks and walls slowly began releasing their stored heat back into the freezing air. And for ordinary families, there was a serious limitation: they did not have unlimited fuel. A modern house can turn on a heater with one button. Ancient families did not have that luxury. Every piece of firewood mattered. Every piece of coal mattered. A fire that burned for 1 hour and disappeared was not enough. They needed a way to make a small amount of fuel last through the entire night. And that is where ancient Chinese builders created something almost unbelievable. They stopped trying to heat the air. Instead, they heated the object people lived on. Think about a swimming pool. Trying to heat the air above it is almost useless. The heat disappears quickly, but heat the water itself. Now you have a giant thermal battery. Ancient builders understood the same principle. Instead of filling a room with hot air, they created a massive heated platform called the Kang. The Kang was not just a bed. It was a heating system disguised as furniture, built from mud brick, clay tiles, and stone. The raised platform could occupy a large part of the main living space. Inside was a hidden network of channels, a maze buried beneath the surface. The genius idea was simple: do not waste the heat from cooking. Capture it, reuse it, redirect it. Every morning and evening, a family needed to cook. The stove produced hot exhaust gases. Normally, that heat would disappear into the sky, but the Kang changed the rules. Instead of sending the heat straight outside, builders redirected the hot smoke through tunnels underneath the sleeping platform. The fire cooked the food. The leftover heat warmed the house. 1 action, 2 results. This was ancient energy efficiency. Not because someone invented a complicated machine, but because someone noticed that wasted heat was simply another resource waiting to be collected. Inside the Kang, the smoke did not travel through one straight tunnel. That would be too inefficient. Instead, builders created winding channels, like a modern car radiator forcing coolant through many narrow tubes. The longer path gave heat more time to transfer into the surrounding brick. The process worked like this. The hot exhaust left the stove extremely hot. As it moved through the maze beneath the Kang, the brick absorbed the heat. The smoke gradually cooled, the brick gradually warmed. The platform became a giant thermal storage device. And this is the part that made the system so powerful. The fire could disappear, but the heat remained. The thick brick mass slowly released warmth for hours. A family could cook dinner in the evening and still sleep on a warm platform deep into the night. The house was not keeping a fire alive. The house itself had become the fire. But there was a dangerous challenge, because the same system that could save a family from freezing could also become deadly. Remember, the Kang was carrying hot smoke underneath where people slept. A tiny crack, a damaged channel, a poorly sealed joint, and dangerous gases could leak into the room. The heating system had to do something almost impossible: move heat through the house, while keeping smoke completely away from the people inside. Ancient builders solved this problem by understanding something fundamental about air. Hot air rises, and rising hot air creates movement. The same principle that makes smoke climb through a chimney also powered the Kang system. The stove was placed at the lowest point of the system. the exhaust channels were carefully designed. A tall chimney created a constant upward pull. As hot gases rose, they pulled more air behind them. This created a natural suction effect. The result was a hidden heating machine inside the floor. No electric fan, no mechanical pump, no control system, just gravity, temperature difference, and careful design. But the Kang was not only a rural invention. The same idea eventually scaled upward, from a farmer's bedroom to imperial palaces. Because if a small family could heat one sleeping platform, imagine what happened when architects applied the same principle to a massive palace hall. They created a much larger version, a heated floor system called the Dikang. Instead of warming one raised bed, it warmed the floor beneath an entire room. The emperor could stand inside a huge hall during winter without a visible fire burning nearby. The heat came from hidden furnaces outside the buildings. Smoke and hot gases traveled through underground channels. The stone floor above slowly absorbed the warmth. The ancient Chinese courtyard house that survived -40°C winters without modern technology, English. TXT the palace was heated from underneath, a giant ancient version of modern radiant floor heating. But there was still one final weakness. A perfectly heated floor means nothing if freezing air enters every time someone opens the door. The enemy was not just outside, it was the doorway itself. And ancient builders had one more trick. They redesigned the entrance. They created a small hidden battlefield between the outside world and the warm interior. A space where cold air could be trapped before it attacked the house. A design that worked almost like a submarine airlock. The Kang solved one of humanity's oldest. How do you stay warm when the temperature outside wants to take your heat away? But there was still another enemy, a smaller one, a more dangerous one, the doorway. Because even the best heating system in the world has a weakness. Open the door, and winter comes rushing in. A single blast of freezing air could destroy hours of carefully stored warmth. The ancient builders of northern China, and so instead of treating the entrance as a simple opening, they treated it like a defensive structure. In the coldest regions of northern China, especially areas facing extreme winters, builders developed a design known as the pocket house. The idea was simple: never allow outside air to travel directly into the living space. Most modern homes place the entrance in the center, walk straight inside. But in these traditional northern houses, the entrance was often moved to one side. The door was pushed away from the center. Instead of entering directly into the warm room, visitors first stepped into a small buffer space, a pocket, a cold air trap. Think about a submarine. A submarine does not open one giant door and instantly expose the entire interior to the ocean. It uses a small chamber between two environments. Zone door closes, the other opens. The pressure changes gradually. The pocket house worked with the same logic. Cold air entered the small entrance chamber first. It slowed down, it lost energy, and it never had a straight path into the entrance. Was not just a doorway. It was a climate control device. A tiny piece of architecture fighting an invisible enemy. But walls and doors were not the only weak points. Windows were another challenge. Glass windows were expensive and difficult to produce in many historical periods. So what did ancient Chinese builders use? Paper at first. That sounds impossible. Paper seems fragile. It tears, it absorbs water. It feels like the last material you would choose to survive a northern winter. But the secret was in the treatment. Builders used wooden lattice frames covered with thick mulberry paper. Then they treated the paper with tung oil. The oil sealed the fibers together. It created a surface that resisted wind and moisture while still allowing soft daylight into the room. The result was surprisingly effective. The paper contained tiny trapped air spaces inside its fibers. Those air pockets slowed heat transfer. The same basic principle is used in modern insulation. Trap air, slow movement, reduce heat loss. The window was not trying to become a wall. It was doing something smarter. It allowed light in while slowing the escape of warmth. Now combine every piece of the system. The thick northern wall, the south, facing courtyard, the sunlight collection, the thermal mass of brick and earth, the Kang heating platform, the underground palace heating system, the protected entrance, the insulated paper windows. Each part solved one problem. Together, They created something much bigger, a complete climate machine. Not a machine made of metal, a machine made of architecture. And then came the ultimate test, not one winter, not 10 winters, centuries. Between the 14th and 19th centuries, the world entered a colder period known as the Little Ice Age. Temperatures dropped, winters became harsher, agricultural seasons became shorter, and families across northern China faced even greater pressure from the cold. A weak wall could mean freezing, a cracked heating channel could mean disaster. A poorly sealed window could mean losing the battle against winter. Every detail mattered, so builders kept improving. Walls became thicker, brick production became more refined, construction knowledge spread through generations. The same principles were repeated across villages, cities, and imperial buildings. A farmer's home and a palace hall were built from the same understanding. The environment is not something you simply fight. It is something you learn to work with. And perhaps the most surprising proof is that the Kang system survived for centuries. Even into the modern era, millions of people in rural northern China continued using versions of this heating method. A design created long before electricity, long before modern insulation, still solving the same problem. How do humans survive when nature becomes the enemy? For thousands of years, humans have tried to fight the cold. We built bigger fires, we invented furnaces, we created electric heaters. But the ancient courtyard house of northern China followed a completely different philosophy. It did not try to overpower nature. It studied nature, and then it used nature's own rules as part of the heating system. The wall was not just a wall, it was a windshield. It understood the direction of the winter attack. The courtyard was not just an empty space. It was a solar collector. It understood the movement of the sun. The Kang was not just a bed, it was a thermal battery. It understood that heat could be stored and released slowly. The entrance was not just a door, it was an air barrier. It understood that cold air had to be slowed down before it reached people. The entire building was designed around one idea: energy should never be wasted. Modern buildings often separate systems. A heater creates warmth, a window lets in light, a wall blocks weather, a ventilation system moves air. Each part has one job. But the traditional northern Chinese courtyard house combined all of these functions into one connected system. This is why the engineering behind these homes is so fascinating. The builders were not using modern computers. They were not running simulations. They were not measuring everything with digital sensors. Instead, they observed, they tested, they failed. They improved, generation after generation. They learned how wind moved around walls. They learned how sunlight entered courtyards. They learned how brick absorbed heat. They learned how smoke traveled through underground channels. And slowly, they created a house that worked with physics itself. The most impressive part is not that this technology was ancient. The most impressive part is that it was practical. It did not depend on rare materials. It did not require a powerful empire to maintain it. A family could build, repair, and improve the system using materials available around them. Earth, brick, clay, straw, paper, fire. That is what made the design powerful. It was not a luxury invention. It was survival engineering. Compare this with another famous ancient heating system. The Romans created the hypocaust, an impressive underfloor heating technology. But that system depended heavily on large amounts of fuel and complex infrastructure. When that infrastructure disappeared, the system became difficult to maintain. The northern Chinese heating approach was different. It recycled energy that families were already using. The same fire that cooked dinner also heated the home. The same sunlight that existed outside became indoor warmth. The same walls that surrounded the family became thermal storage. The ancient Chinese courtyard house that survived -40 degrees Celsius winters without modern technology. English. TXTTX that reveals the deeper lesson. Ancient builders were not primitive people waiting for modern technology to save them. They were engineers solving incredibly difficult problems with the tools they had. They looked at the environment and asked, how can we make nature work for us? Not, how can we destroy nature and replace it? A northern Chinese courtyard house was not simply a place to live. It was a machine powered by sunlight, controlled by geometry, heated by recycled energy, protected by airflow, built from the intelligence of generations. Today, we often imagine progress as adding more technology, more machines, more energy, more complexity. But sometimes progress comes from understanding the world around us so deeply that you need less fuel, less power, less waste, because the smartest designs are not always the ones that use the most energy. They are the ones that understand where energy already exists. A 2000-year-old Courtyard house survived the freezing winds of northern China, not because it conquered winter. It survived because it listened to winter. It learned the language of wind, the rhythm of the sun, the movement of heat, and then it turned those forces into protection. The greatest invention was never the heater inside the house. It was the house itself.